Donovan.
Off and running with the Monday edition of the Donovan Live postgame show. Dave DiNatale alongside Jim Donovan. Happy to have you with us. Just got back from Taste of the Browns, and it was still, Jimmy, there's still a great vibe in this town from Thursday night.
Oh,
and you could feel it there. I talked to Joel Platonio. I talked to Christian Kirksey, one of the co-chairs of the event, and they still feel it too. That wasn't just a winless streak-breaking victory Thursday.
No,
was it?
it really wasn't. You're right. It's amazing, the aftermath of it and the joy that it spread. I mean, it really is amazing, and it's very real, and it's very different for those guys. A lot of them will tell you the last 2 years, as the season has gone along during those regular seasons and the losses have piled up, at times it's very difficult for them to go out.
Yeah.
You know, they don't like going out. They feel they've let a lot of the fans down, and, you know, they don't want to talk about it. But, I mean, you know, this is fun for them to experience this, and I'm sure it's intoxicating in the right way to the point that they want to have it keep happening now. I mean, and they, you know, Joe Thomas used to always tell them all during his last few years. He would always get up in front of the team and he'd say, fellas, I want to tell you something. If you guys win, if we win here in Cleveland, you'll never have to pay for another meal in your life. And I think he's right about that. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling somebody, just from like an Indians perspective the other day, when Rajay Davis and Andrew Miller, for example, two guys who were heroes in 2016. I mean, those guys are going to be legends. I mean, for 1 month. They were, I mean, and obviously Miller a little bit further, but you know what I mean. It's a short time. You're part of a team that gets the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs, and you're always remembered. If you don't believe me, Dan Fike was, you know, who was on those late '80 teams, was there tonight. So was Hanford Dixon. I mean, those guys are always. I mean, Bernie Kosar is beloved. He has always been beloved. He'll always be beloved. Biner, Mack. You know, Minifield, Dixon, all those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's why there was a period of time where a lot of them never left Cleveland even after their playing days were over, because they were just so accepted in the community. In other words, when the regular season came to an end, a lot of them never even left and went back, like, you know, Hanford Dixon, wherever, you know, grew up in Texas, didn't he? And, you know, went back there, or, you know, and Frank Minifield grew up in, like, Louisville, didn't he? And he didn't go back there. They stayed in town, and a lot of them then stayed in town after the playing days were over and stayed here because they were just so accepted as a part of the community. It's like the old Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yes.
Okay, people used to talk about what it was like when the Dodgers were based in Brooklyn. And these guys, now this is a long time ago, obviously, but these guys would play in Brooklyn. They were loved in Brooklyn. They were your neighbor. And a lot of them then would go sell insurance or do something else in the off season to make a little extra money, because baseball salaries were very obviously different than they are right now. But to some extent, that's what the Browns you know, did for many, many years, is that a lot of these people stayed around here. A lot of the former players, Doug Deacon, you know, stayed around here. Robert Jackson.
Started successible businesses. Dick Ambrose got into politics and now is a judge. I mean, you know, it's incredible. I want to bring this up because Joy, and you can please give us your questions and comments here on Facebook. Joy says, "Is this how this feels?" in quotes. I cried when I heard Jimmy say this.
I almost did too. I want to be honest with you.
You were almost, because, you know, thanks to the NFL films, and you guys have a camera by your broadcast
Which I
position.
did not know about.
Yeah, I mean, you were almost like dancing a little bit, because, I mean, it just was like, I must have felt like walking on air at that point.
It did. It really did. It was, I have to tell you, I don't think I have experienced that in that stadium. And I know people bring up the Run, William, Run game. I even think this eclipsed that. I really do. And imagine now, the thing about that game, the Run, William, Run game, is, remember, when they won the game, they weren't in the playoffs. You didn't find out until like 7:30 that night that they had made the playoffs, because different things had to happen. The latest thing that had to happen was the Jets had to win to get them in the playoffs, and they did, but they didn't win until about 7:30 at night. So you left the stadium, and, you know, it was great, but you didn't know if they had still made it into the playoffs, because I remember there was a scenario where New England had to lose to Miami, and they were losing, and then the Patriots did what the Patriots do. They tied it up, and then Adam Vinatieri hit a field goal in overtime, and they won. So then that scenario was gone, and so now you had to wait to see if the Jets won, but they weren't playing until later. So we didn't find out they made the playoffs, if you all remember, until, you know, 7:30 at night. This was different because this was happening, and now just separated by 4 or 5 days, the heartbreaking loss in New Orleans, where you thought it might end there because they had the game kind of under control, you thought, and now here it was. And still the scenario was the mathematics were good. They were up 4, 21-17, so the Jets needed a touchdown. And then when, Joe Schobert picked off that pass, it was just amazing. You're saying, is this how it is? This is how it is? So it really was a great moment. It was electric in there. Yeah. It really was. All night long.
Is a lot of this because, in your mind, it wasn't just a victory, because maybe for the first time in a long time, and I know at one point in 2014 the Browns were 7-4, and obviously we remember 2007 and the season of dreams and going 10-6, but maybe, Jimmy, things finally feel like they're headed in the right direction with this franchise. And I guess a lot of it is because the belief is finally there that there's a franchise quarterback that's on this football team that can lead this team down the field and get results, even when they're down 14-0 and look terrible before he enters the game. There's really a belief in Baker Mayfield that you just can't. It's just hard to put a value on it, but it's there.
Yeah, it really is. He is, he's pretty amazing. He really is. He's got it. Whatever that is, I think he's got it. He really does. I was a little forlorn at the end of the preseason, to be honest with you, because I was wondering how Tyrod Taylor would play. We talked about it. I said, we really haven't had a full example of how is he going to play? How does he play?
Right.
What happens if he gets off to a slow start? What happens if he has the lead? How much does he run? Right. There wasn't a big example because they didn't play him a lot in the preseason. He got the minimum, maybe even a little bit less because he didn't play a lot in that third game because, remember, he got hurt. But what I saw every week from Mayfield was really good. Really good, and it got better every week. So when we left Detroit that night, I'm saying, we're not going to see him now.
Right.
Is it going to be November? Is it going to be December? Is it going to be at all?
Right.
Is it going to be next year on opening day? So that I was a little bummed out because I really enjoyed watching him. I thought he toyed with the Lions that last preseason game. And I kept saying, boy, do you just put that on the shelf? What says he's not ready?
Right.
He sure looks ready to me.
The book may say he's not ready, but everything else said he's ready. I asked Bitonio tonight, coach, and to their credit, and I feel this, Hugh Jackson, and I'm sure John Dorsey signed off on this, they had the plan. They brought in the veteran Taylor on the 1-year deal, and they were going to draft the rookie. They're going to put the rookie, in the box, as I say, not open until 2019. And I understood the plan. I respected the plan. I thought it made sense.
Well, and it made sense too. Just probably to add to that is that we saw what happened last year.
Yes.
And it was an absolute train wreck.
Yes.
What happened last year to be that young, bang, 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 all three quarterbacks never having won. And there was no veteran backup. Right. There was no veteran that you could put in there. That was the worst possible scenario at quarterback. So anything different, we were all in on.
Yeah. So I asked Bitonio. I said, Joel, how do you, as players, when there's a plan, and all of a sudden, and obviously the injury thing had something, the concussion has something to do with it, but all of a sudden you're like, okay, we've played 3 games and the plan's changing. And he said, hey, look, he goes, this is the NFL.
Yeah.
Nothing is written in stone. Sorry, it's just, no job is written in stone. And, we as players, he said, have to adjust to that. And he goes, and in this case, it's the right move.
Yeah, and it was so visible.
Yeah.
You just saw the differences between how that team played with Tyrod Taylor and then how the team played with Baker Mayfield. You didn't have to go back and watch the film, as was talked about. But here's the question I have, and it's hypothetical, and it doesn't bear any water right now because we don't have to worry about it. But with the way that game was going, and how poorly the offense was playing, and they were down 14-0, and if you were at the game, or even I'm sure you could feel it through the TV set or through the radio or whatever, and you hear the agitation in that crowd, which had built up to a crescendo, like this is the night, okay? This is the night we're going to break this thing and get into the win column. Having said that, with the way that game was going, would they still have made the move if there was no concussion, if Taylor hadn't gotten hit, if he had just continued to sputter a little bit, were they going to, nix the plan and bring the kid in then? Because I have to tell you, it was warranted that they take a good, serious look and maybe some action to do it, because you have to show the team that you're willing to win the game.
Right.
Okay. At that point, no one's worried about the plan.
No.
Everyone's worried about being 0-3 and laying a colossal Cleveland Browns egg.
On a national TV game that just would have been, for them to have lost the game, the way it was headed would have been a disaster.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
the whole conversation is a lot different. It would have been the longest weekend in the world, and the whole tenor changed. But now, I mean, people are asking, how many games can Baker win? Well, I mean, you've got one coming up on Sunday in Oakland, and I mean, the Raiders are sputtering right now. I mean, there's some dissension there, obviously, with the Khalil Mack trade before the season started, and I mean, it's never easy to go to the West Coast and win, but this feels like this is an opportunity to get another victory.
Yeah, and the team right now, though, Mayfield's a very, very exciting chapter in this thing. But the basic foundation of the team is they really play good defense.
Yes, they do.
Okay, so that's the thing that you go into every game saying, take a look at this. Okay, take a look at what Drew Brees did yesterday.
Yes.
Against Atlanta. He went up and down the field. Okay, and go back now to last week. He couldn't do that against the Browns defense, mind you, at home.
Right.
In his own building. I mean, he struggled to get yardage, to make plays. I mean, he was puzzled a number of times in that football game by that Browns defense. So I think that's the bedrock of the team, is they've got defense, and they have a really good defense. And, maybe it will get healthier this week. Maybe Agba will be back. Maybe Christian Kirksey.
I talked to him.
If you're at the Taste of the Browns, you should be in Oakland on Sunday. But anyway, I mean, but they're firing on all pistons right now defensively.
There's another thing. We talked about this, ceaselessly before the draft, that this idea was that you're going to put the quarterback off to the side and let him learn, but whoever you draft with that 4th overall pick, because you were so bad and they made all those trades and accumulated assets and you had the 4th pick, that 4th overall pick was going to have to be a playmaker. I mean, Jimmy Denzel Ward's a playmaker, man. I mean, he really is exceeding all expectations right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
really is when you watch him. And you stick him and you stick Myles Garrett and you say, boy, they really have the foundation for a great defense in the future, besides what we're seeing right now, to go with the belief that Mayfield's your quarterback of the future on offense. I mean, you've got some core players now that are young.
Yeah, and this kid Ogunjobi is playing unbelievable.
Yes.
But let me go back to Ward. I think that's how it all started the other night, okay? I think that play where he gave up a pass completion to Robbie Anderson, he had the know-how to chop that ball out of there. He picked it up, he turned it into a little punt return run, and he got them down 1st and goal at the 8-yard line, and then they bang it in. Now that started it, I think. I think that really got it going. And that, remember now, that was like their first possession of the second half, and that really now swings the momentum, puts them on a short field. Now Mayfield can do his thing. Now Hyde's a factor in the game. And then the other guys are getting in there. Landry's getting involved, and Njoku's getting involved. Higgins is getting involved. Suddenly everybody's involved. Duke Johnson's getting a little bit involved. But you're right. I'm glad you brought up Denzel Ward. I really think that's how it started.
Yeah.
I really think it started, and that's how it started against Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Really. It started with those interceptions and, the strip sacks of Ben Roethlisberger in the game. So I think this team is – I think you're going to see it grow real quickly offensively, because I think Mayfield's going to be really good. But I think defensively is going to be the thing Sunday to Sunday.
Yes.
That's going to be the thing that they can really rely on.
Yeah, their defense. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen the defense force turnovers like this. I mean, it's one thing you'd say, well,
what did they have, 9 all of last year?
Yeah.
I mean, they're over that now.
They're over that now.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's and that's contagious. I mean, guys really get into it now, and it's like it's all about it's disruption, it's pressure, it's getting to the quarterback. Even if you don't get the sack, you're disrupting the throw.
Yeah.
And you're getting off the field. I mean, the Browns are able to now get off the field on 3rd downs.
Yeah, they really. I felt very safe late in the game when they got the lead and they were up 21-17. I felt very different with that defense. I really felt the crowd was amazing, and I really said, you can't put this in the bank yet, but this looks good. I mean, they're going to get to him. They're either going to sack him or they're going to do what they did, which was get the 2 interceptions by Schobert and Mitchell. But I just didn't see any crazy play happening where Terrell Pryor ends up, getting behind somebody and goes 85 yards and, here we go. Right. I really didn't, which is very different.
Yes.
I mean, they've had leads before and not been able to hold on to them. So I really think that is the foundation of the team. I will say this, though, Dino, they have to get better on special teams.
Yes.
I mean, they gave up a blocked punt the other day.
Yes.
And I know Colquitt had a very, very good game after that. He was hanging them out there, dropping them inside the 5-yard line a number of times. He was very good on that. But there are some fundamental problems on special teams that, especially now when you go on the road, out to a place like Oakland or anywhere, really, you have to tighten those things up. You can't kick off out of bounds.
Nope.
Okay.
You got to tighten up your coverage.
Got to tighten up the coverage. Got to knock off these blocks in the back on these returns. You're giving up too much yardage. So, I mean, that's, Doug always says in the radio booth, he always says, well, the thing is, when you're dealing with young players, you're dealing with a lot of young players who probably didn't play special teams in college because they were stars on their college team. You couldn't afford to put them out there. And, of course, college rosters are huge.
Right.
You can dress as many as you have uniforms for, it seems. And so you just put those guys out there, those heroes out there that go out there and play special teams. But these guys have to get better doing that.
Yes.
And they have to have a core guy. I can't identify who their core guy is. They don't have a Johnson Batamosi.
Or Tank Carter.
They don't have a Cribbs. Yeah, exactly. Tank Carter, had that big block that one time that turned the game around in Tennessee when he got a safety. And I think they're searching for that right now.
Yeah. I saw Josh was out there tonight, Cribbs, and I kept thinking, God, would love to have him. And I know he's working on trying to, help in the coaching ranks, turn the special teams around. But God, again, it's one of those things you take for granted when they're not there. It's somebody that can solidify your special teams. Somebody asked, and I apologize, I didn't get the name here, but it was a good point. I think it was Chris who said, Baker is going to have growing pains. Do you think that he's going to be able to adjust as teams adjust to him, and the Browns and their coaching staff will be able to, kind of keep him in the right frame of mind when you do have that one day when the passes aren't getting completed or you're just struggling, you're having one of those days.
Well, I think what they do, and I think they have already done this, but maybe they'll do it a little bit more earnestly now, is they're going to go back to Oklahoma, and they're going to take things that he really liked and did well. Now that he's the guy, you just don't have a little page in the playbook for him, but now the playbook is his, and you want him to be comfortable. But there are certain things that I think Todd Haley likes that Lincoln Riley did in Oklahoma. I mean, it really wasn't a college. It wasn't really a college offense. I mean, it was, as Baker pointed out, if you remember the first day that he was in town after he got drafted, there are teams in the NFL that actually run the Oklahoma offense.
Yes.
What's it called, the air raid?
The air raid. Yeah,
the air raid
I remember that. I was in that room with you. I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, he points out that Kansas City runs it. Philadelphia runs it, a version of it. There are other people that do it too. And so I think that you'll see probably a little bit of that implementation now that he is 100% the guy as the starting quarterback. So I think that there will be a revision of the Browns offense. I don't think there'll be as much run-pass option. I don't think they want him running. I think Tyrod really liked to run.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think that he makes all the throws pretty well, and they get there quickly. But he's amazing on target. I mean, he's very close to the target. His accuracy is really amazing. I mean, he didn't have that many incompletions, and he did have a couple of drops. I mean, I would say Callaway dropped that ball. Definitely Landry dropped one right on his numbers, and then he went right back to him. There was another one in there somewhere.
I just know that, I mean, when he came in there immediately, I thought Landry was much more of a threat.
He was,
And then he got Njoku involved.
And
I thought that was I thought that was big because that makes that middle of the field so much different.
Now here's the other thing. Now he'll practice more with those guys.
Yes.
Callaway has always said I've got pretty good rhythm with him because the two of them would practice a great deal together during training camp and in preparation for some of those preseason games. But now, he'll be with Landry. He'll be with Njoku a lot. He won't be throwing to Devin Kajus.
Yeah. I mean, we missed.
That's the only thing we missed Thursday night was Devin Kajus.
I needed the juice there. What last thought about the Browns offense? Is it maturity? Is it a year with really listening to Al Saunders? Hollywood Higgins, Rashard Higgins, his growth has been superb this year, and it's to the point where you can let Josh Gordon go, because I do think there's a sincere confidence that, number one, Callaway, we saw in New Orleans what he can do. But I really do think there's a trust in Higgins now that, he has an understanding of what he needs to do as a professional to be successful.
Yeah, Mayfield really has a lot of trust in Higgins. I can remember that scrimmage day they had on that Friday afternoon in training camp. First pass of the scrimmage, Mayfield hit him long and deep down the sideline, and Higgins really he just really looked like an NFL receiver. I think this started a little bit at the end of the year last year. He had that really good game in Pittsburgh, the last game of the season. He had 2 touchdowns in the game.
Oh, that's right.
He had one other good game earlier in the year, I think against Baltimore, when Coleman got hurt in the game, and so he ended up as really a primary target. But you're right. I think that he's coming on. He is, that will be a good story.
Yeah.
That they hung with him, they were patient with him. Because when they went down that road, there's a lot of misses there.
Yeah.
Ricardo Lewis. I don't know what his state is. He has an injury and he's on IR. But remember
Lewis,
now
they got Peyton that year, and he washed out in Coleman.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. Remember now, there are 2 other guys that they really like. This kid Willis.
That's right.
And Damian Radley, who have been kind of lost now that we're into the regular season. But I think that Higgins is a good story, but he's legit right in their game plan right now. They would like him to be able to be a go-to guy on the other side of Landry.
Yeah. It just seems to me every time you need a third down completion, or you need somebody to help stretch the chains. It's been Higgins. It's pretty amazing. Last thing from Chris. The Browns drafted Garrett, Njoku, Peppers, Mayfield, Ward, Corbett, and the young running back Chubb in the first 2 rounds the last 2 years. None of them seem to be a bust. Is this what good drafting feels like?
Yeah, I think so. And let me add to that. They got Ogunjobi in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Okay. And they got this kid Avery in the 5th round.
Yep.
Okay. And he's going to be a solid player for them. And Callaway in the 4th round, which was a prohibitive pick, of course, because of the problems he had in college. So yeah, it really is. I think John Dorsey, did a very, very good job, and he was very, very happy guy outside that Browns locker room on Thursday night, because remember, there was a lot of pressure going into that game. First of all, going into the game, you didn't think that Mayfield would play.
Yeah.
And number 2, here's Darnold playing, the guy that you did not select. But they were very, unanimous on Mayfield. So they were not going to be shaken, even if Darnold went out and beat them, and Mayfield didn't play.
Right.
But I think the only thing that's disappointing to them right now was Taylor's been, that's a disappointing thing, that he just didn't play well. Now, it has accelerated the process, and now we're into it.
Yep.
So we're into it, and we're going to grow. The clock has started on Baker Mayfield.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
Buy the ticket, take the ride, folks, because it's Baker's time. Jimmy, as always, thank you so much. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow here as we get ready for the Browns and the Raiders coming up later on Sunday. It's This is when it's fun, folks. After a Browns win, you start counting down the days to Sunday.
The days fly by. Yeah.
This is when it gets fun. All right, for David Herverton, for Jimmy, I'm Dino. Thanks for watching the Donovan Live postgame show here on WKYC's Facebook Live.